Happy Monday. Happy Monday, Eli.
What's up, man? How you doing, buddy?
I'm still enjoying that beat, man. I know I let it go a little long, but it's fun to hear. It's Monday. We had a good weekend. We were a little busy with some business, but I love letting that run. We've got, and I hope he just doesn't even speak right now because he's waiting. But so I'm just gonna say what I want to say. But we've got one of my favorite people on. Period. If you've listened to this podcast before, you've always heard me send some references or some type of example or something that I took away from a gentleman that we call Tosh, by permission, by the way. Back when I was in the Marine Corps, he was called Sir. That's just how that worked. But given that permission now, he's like, hey, man, it's cool. Just call me Tosh. And I think he said that to me probably 20 times in the past couple of years before I was actually okay with it. But super excited to have him on. We got some fun topics. Obviously, we're going to stay traditional to day $1 and kind of his path. He's also going to shed some light on his business endeavors, man, and how that looks and his transition from, military operations, how that applies to business and just kind of how he looks at some stuff. But Tosh, why don't you say what's up, man, and tell the people how you're doing.
Welcome, man.
Hey,
there he is.
What's up, guys? Appreciate you reaching out and having me on, man.
No, we're super excited, and before we get overly started and we kind of get into who you are and what you're all about, and I want you to kind of speak in first person to that and kind of go through that. We want to play a song for you from one of our guys at Division Schools and get your take on it. I told him I'd play it for you. For some reason, he's still scared of you, man. I can't imagine why, but we want to play it for you and get your take. So, guys, our intro is from Long Cut, a good buddy of mine who's out there doing his musician thing. So if you hear our intros and outros, that's Long Cut. This is going to be another fun song. We're going to play just a couple seconds of it. Tosh, we want to get your opinion, buddy.
Let's go.
It's dramatic.
It's good, bro.
Wow.
It's good. Tosh, this is you flying in, going hunting. This is the long version. This is the theatrical
Not sure where this
version.
is going.
Just let it go.
Trying to play the visual in my head, but I'm not sure.
It's a great music video. This is the music video. You're just hearing the audio.
Barely.
Let it build. Climax.
Oh, it's building.
Take your time.
Oh, it's building.
Take your time. I didn't think it'd be this fucking long, so take your time. Here it comes. There we go.
Long cut. Kill a buck, spill the guts, hang him up, drain the blood, pull the hide off his ass, mount the rack, backstrap, deer killer. Deer killer. I'm getting lit, smoking my shit, throw a few rounds in a 308 clip, click, click. Boom goes the dynamite, down goes a buck, throw him in the truck, deer killer.
I feel like we're watching one of those reaction videos.
Kill a buck, spill the guts, hang him up, drain the blood, pull the hide off his ass, mount the rack, backstrap, deer killer.
All right, you can fade it out.
Deer killer.
Shout out to JT with Long Cut.
Yeah, man. Tosh, what do you think, man? Does that make you feel like you want to go? I know you're a bow guy, but does that make you feel like you want to go hunting?
Oh, man, I always want to go hunting, dude. I'm always hunting. I'm not pulling the trigger. I'm scouting, so it doesn't matter. That's pretty funny.
That's a pretty cool song, man. They so they're country rap, and that sounds crazy, but we've had JT on a couple of times. Actually pretty good, but we wanted to share that with you, man, and get your thoughts.
Yeah.
Tell people who you are, man.
Cool. Well, I don't know. Just an average dude, really.
I knew. No, fuck that. I knew he was gonna say that.
Yeah, who isn't, man? Who isn't an average dude?
True.
We're
Very
all just
true.
people trying to get by, man. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18. I enlisted, did a handful of years, got commissions, finished out 21 years in the Marine Corps, retired, living in Boulder, Colorado now, and just trying to enjoy life, trying to grow up a little bit, mature, think, and just live a good life, just trying to focus on living a good life.
And for folks that don't know, when you talked about enlisted and then getting commissioned, so Chontosh is what we call a Mustang, correct?
Yep.
So Tosh was enlisted, so he went through boot camp and joined the Marine Corps just like I did, right? And then after that, after a certain amount of service, I think you were a sergeant for a while, correct? And then from there you went to OCS.
Yeah, I did a MESEP program. It's a Marine Enlisted Education Commissioning Program or something like that, and it takes enlisted guys and offers them an opportunity to get a degree, and then commission as an officer. And then when you get commissioned, you're still in the Marine Corps. You never left. And then you do the officer ranks and, go second lieutenant, first lieutenant.
Right. See,
captain,
pretty modest.
And I retired.
Pretty modest, right? So here's what we wrote about Tosh, right? We put down there, Marine Corps officer retired, right? Life extraordinaire.
Life enthusiast.
Yeah, life enthusiast,
yeah.
CrossFit extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Bow hunter.
Yeah.
What else we got? What else do we have? Public figure / overall badass. And there's a ton that goes in there. But I do appreciate his modest because there's probably enough of my loud mouth on this for all of us. So some of that modesty is enjoyable. But when we first, and it's funny, Tosh, literally to the day, Eli and I were just at your house in Boulder a year ago to the day. Just going over some of our endeavors, business, and something that I've benefited that I want the audience to benefit from today was every time I've reached out to you, you're a super busy guy, but you always make a point to try to talk to me the best that you can, when you're available. And every time I've reached out, it had everything to do with business, but it had nothing to do with business. It had everything to do with like questioning why I was doing something, or just questioning who I was as a human being and where my motives were coming from, and if I was kind of staying true to course of who I was. And I think there's not enough people in business that really resonate with, it's not about, picking some popular business endeavor. Like if something's popular, I want to do that, and then you try to fit yourself into some realm, versus just this path of really trying to figure out who you are, and then how who you are and what you're growing into, letting that allow some growth into an industry. And that's kind of how I felt with real estate. I'm a bigger guy. I'm a super shredded 250 right now. I know you can't see me in this jacket. But I'm tatted up. I've got a Marine Corps past. I've got some government past. I have a police officer past. And when I was first starting this whole real estate thing, when Kate was like, I think you should do real estate, I was like, what the fuck did you just say to me? And she's like, well, I hope you're okay with it because I already bought your online school. This is when I was leaving Fit Republic. And I took a leap of faith on it a little bit, trusting that she knows me a little bit better than maybe I know myself currently. Tosh, I know you talk about your significant other a lot and just how dialed in she is, and you listen to her a lot. I feel like you and I have some similarities. I listen to my significant other a lot, and when she said that about me, I just was like, really? Like, why? And a lot of it had to do with just, well, hey, you're around people so long for these business transactions of buying and selling homes, and it allows you to build a relationship, and you're smart, and hey, you do know some market stuff from the commercial side with the Fit Republics and some other things. And I'm like, man, some of what you're saying is making sense. I don't have a better idea quite yet for myself, so I'm going to knock this school out because you believed in me. I'm going to maybe turn this stone and just trust that you might see something in me that I'm not quite seeing yet. And it couldn't have been a better fit, and I felt like it kind of found me. But every time I reached out to Tosh, it was about that. It was just where I was growing and how I was growing, and more about, am I growing as a type of person that I want to be? Not am I growing to a fad or to a superficial standard to try to keep up within a sales job. And what you find out is that relationships are way more involved there. And guys, obviously with day $1.0, we're going to hear about Tosh and just where he was at when he was a youngster. What was his day $1.0? Why did he choose, to join the Marine Corps? What skills has he brought now into that realm? But Tosh, just want to say, man, just appreciate it. And I think that's the biggest contribution you have, being biased to my opinion of you. Everywhere I've grown, these past 2 years since we've been talking, it's been as a human. And what I've really started to just realize, I know I'm being a dead horse, but who you are as a person, it literally bleeds into everything, especially when we talk business and sales. You've got to be transparent. You've got to be honest. You have to be helping people for the right reasons. And if you're doing those things, man, the sales come. And I think it's huge, man. And wanted to get your opinion on that as far as like your growth within business. Are there some tools that you've taken through your Marine Corps past that have bled into business? And then what do you feel like the biggest growth you've had or during your transition out that's contributed to what you do for business now?
Yeah, man, that's an awful lot. Like, that's a lot there. I think going right to where you started in the beginning, our conversations were never really focused on business or any specific endeavor. We talked about just who we are as men, really, or people if you're a woman, whatever. But like, I think character is the foundation of everything. You can't build a superstructure or a house or a skyscraper or whatever on a shitty foundation. And I think the foundation of anything that we do in life is character. And I think that's why a lot of our conversations really revolved around character. What is it to be a man? What is it to be a responsible citizen? What is it to be a human being? What is it to just like, what values do you have, And so everything off of character, then if you have a strong character, a strong identity, then the other things will flourish. The problem is people focus on the after the facts or the wrong side of the equation. They're always so focused on being big or being successful or this or that. And okay, hey, maybe they get there, but it ends up all like caving in because they don't have a solid foundation. And so I think that's like when you had met, hadn't seen each other probably for, I don't know, man, 7 years or so, 6 years. And we just really just dug in and caught up, and all of our conversations really revolved around character. And it's like, you said something about, you've got your wife, she knows you better than you. Nicole, she knows me better than me. Like, no, not really. But they know us from a different perspective outside of ourselves. We're all who we think we are, right? Hey, this is who I think I am. And I think that's a component of it. And there's a lot of feedback on this mic, man. That's what's throwing me off.
Sorry about that.
And so it's like, hey, who I think I am is cool, but it's only one part of it, right? Like, so your significant other or your spouse or your trusted business partner, they know you from a different perspective, one from the outside looking at you instead of you just looking at yourself from the inside. And when you find them special people that you value and you trust, that's a significant force multiplier for you if you value what they're saying, because they see you from another light. So you have who you think you are, and then you have what others think or view you as. And it's a combination of those two things that really, and then, the third thing, because we all like to talk about Venn diagrams and three circles converging and whatnot, because that's the cute thing to do. It's who you want to be. And if you're not leveraging who you think you are and what others think you are or how they view you, and you're not leveraging those two against who do you want to be, the ideology of your character, then you're foolish, right? So it's a combination of those three things that really make you special. So, we're young, 18 years old. My day one $0 was boot camp, man. And it was where they strip you everything who you thought you were, all your bullshit. You're immature, adolescent, 18-year-old. You think you're the center of the universe. You're the center of your own universe, whatever. At least for me,
I think for a lot of us.
And it just started me on that quest, and they mold you and they shape you and they break you down and build you back up. But it probably wasn't, you said something to me before about, hey, every day is day $1 If you approach life that every day is your day $1, new opportunity to continue to grow or be or evolve or create an identity. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if I agree with every day, but I believe that as we go through life, we have a lot of days. Some people have hundreds, some people have dozens, some people might have thousands. I don't know. But I think there was another day, a significant day $1 for me, the day that I retired. And I realized like, oh, wow, I don't have the luxury of a military structure and authority and hierarchy and organization to tell me who I'm supposed to be anymore. It's like, I'm out.
I like how you call that a luxury too.
Yeah, it is, right. It's cute when you're given boundaries. It's like, oh, cool. Now I know where I can operate from. But when you have a infinite space to move and be free, you don't know where you're going, and you don't know if you're even going in the right direction. You're just going, and that can be neat. And I'm not a creative process oriented guy, but it's nice to have a horizon to help you get oriented. It's nice to have gravity to keep your feet on the ground so that you can, have some frame of reference. And, getting out of the military, I had no frame of reference for who I was or was supposed to be or who I had become, because all of those boundaries were gone then. And so that would be a new day one $0, and it took me a lot of years to kind of get to where I'm at today, I suppose. And just, anyways, I'm just rambling.
No, it's good, man. And you get so dialed in sometimes. I love your podcast. It's something that I'm just super fortunate to have, because obviously I love to talk to you as much as possible, but that's not always possible. And what I figured out is you don't necessarily have to talk to everyone all the time, right? Like, what's great is just when you do have those moments, you pay attention so much more, and something that someone says, it might last you 6 months of thought of just applying and hyper focusing on something. But you get so dialed in on your podcast, man, you got to really listen, because like you said, that one word of like calling it a luxury, if people aren't paying attention to how people frame, their thoughts, you might miss out. But it's good to hear you kind of speak openly. And if you don't mind me asking, man, when you first got out, were there any business endeavors that you were kind of looking at, that ended up not being for you? Or like, what was your plan business wise as you stepped out of it? What were you looking at? Were there some things you tried but didn't like, or tried and did like but weren't for you? Or what was your process with that?
Yeah, I left the Marine Corps. I just was done. I was just tired. I was in the Naval Academy, and I just put in for my terminal leave, and Colonel Healy, great mentor of mine. I was fortunate enough to find myself working for him again for a second time in my career. And I just like, hey, boss, man, I'm done. I'm retiring. Paperwork's filled out. I'm going to do this, do that. I'm just not coming to work Monday. He's like, okay, cool, Tosh. And I literally didn't. I just didn't go to work Monday. I did all the paperwork before, which was kind of nice. But understanding that my circumstance is not your circumstance or your circumstance or yours, it's mine. And so to understand what somebody says or what they believe or their philosophies or their whatever, you have to understand their circumstances to give it context anyways. Otherwise you can misinterpret, So I was blessed, man. I was with Nicole. I had been with Nicole, my partner now, for at that point, maybe 4 or 5 years. We're in a really good, strong, healthy relationship. I wasn't, I had 3 kids also from previous marriage. And, I was, we were financially stable. She had a really good job. She's a super cool person that just gave me freedom of movement and space to think and be. So I wasn't forced, There's a lot of people that get out of the military and then it's like, hey man, I got to find a job right away because I got to put food on the table,
right?
Yeah.
Or I have a lot of responsibilities, So I was really blessed to have what I had, I'm not gonna say it's unique, but it's important to understand that. And it's important for me to remember that too, because I could wax and give people all kinds of advice, but if they're not in the same circumstance I'm in and I don't appreciate their circumstances as their individuals, am I giving them advice for them or am I just like blowing myself,
right?
To share what I think. And so, I didn't really do anything. I moved with her back to California so that she could get re-entrenched with the CrossFit community and her responsibilities. She uprooted for me to go finish up the Naval Academy. And I dabbled at this and that. I was a CrossFit trainer for a while. I did some special projects. I got to train a professional boxer. It was pretty awesome. Travel a lot. I really didn't have a lot of pressure to have to go someplace and do something,
Right. And
which was counter to the advice that they give you when you're retiring, or you're not even retiring necessarily, but when you leave the Marine Corps, the transition, they all push you to this transition. You're getting out, you need to get through it. It's an obstacle. You need to do your resume. You need to this, that, find a job and put you here with your skills. And we need to, and it's like, yeah, hey, I I don't think that really fits. It's a cute plan. But like what I know, that military cookie cutter doesn't really work so well when you get out into the big world, right?
100%.
So I just floated for a little bit, figured out who I was. That was my big thing, is like, who am I? Like, am I the same person outside of the military construct that I was inside of it? Do I have the same beliefs? Do I have the same values? Where's my moral fiber? How is that thing woven together? And fortunately, a lot of it was. Some of it changed over time, but I really did a lot of self-exploration. And again, I had the freedom to do that. I was blessed to be able to explore for a little bit.
Tosh, when did that really start, man? I'm so curious about your mindset and your thought processes, and you can definitely tell, when you listen to your podcast, Crooked Butterfly, that there's you go about things with a certain kind of, I don't know, I guess like thinking pattern, but it's also not a pattern at all. It's all very loose. It's very like introspective, and you can just tell that you question yourself a lot and why you're doing things. When did that start developing for you? Because I'm guessing 18-year-old boot camp Tosh didn't have that sort of mindset.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. It's cool that you see that, Eli. Like, when did it start? In the military, we read military books, right? Sun Tzu, Art of War, and Surfaces and Gaps, and it was just all. And it doesn't necessarily all military. It was my role as an infantry guy for 21 years. But Nicole got me reading and exposing me to different ways of thinking. Whether I agreed with them or not, I liked and I this and that was writing the book or has this philosophy or whatever, thinks the way they do. Whether I agree or disagree is mildly interesting. Trying to understand why they believe what they believe became really important.
Right.
And it might have even started at the Naval Academy when I was studying for my master's and being exposed to different pieces of literature and ways of thinking and philosophies. And, Dr. Campbell was amazing. He was in the Stockdale Center of Leadership and Ethics. And he was a philosopher, and it just really gets you thinking. And so, you're right. My podcast is me just really having an out loud internal dialogue. And I found that I've gone awry most times in my life when I just believe my own bullshit. We constantly try to self-validate and reinforce what we believe all the time. And if you always believe what you believe, you're never going to know if you're wrong, and you're never going to be open to believing something different or better or learning different ways to defend what you believe in. So that's why I really try to question, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? The whys. And, with my kids, I always tell my kids, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm not going to tell you what. I'm going to ask you to think how. I want to teach you to think. I want to teach you to ask the right questions so that you can learn and figure out who you want to be for you. And it's all touchy-feely, but it's a good touchy-feely. So, just starting to read a bunch of different things and being introduced now that I'm not in a military environment with all these military people in this echo chamber of tough guy, I'm introduced to a whole different world of people and personalities who think different things from all over society. And I was just blown away at how much and how little I didn't know.
I agree, and that's something I can relate to you on, man. And I'm glad you said that, because the next question I was going to have for you to follow up with that was, just how crucial timing can be when we're, I don't know if mature is the right word to say, but just how crucial timing can be when you're open and you're susceptible to having someone open your mind to reading and just being open to whether you're right or wrong, or whether you agree with something or disagree with something, being open to just taking that all in, and how much not being in that military environment maybe made you feel, and this might not be the best word for it either, but just safe, or just in a different environment to where it was more acceptable to just be that open-minded. I kind of felt that, and I think something that benefited me was when I was in the Marine Corps, especially in SoCal, I had a lot of friends around the fitness community that were not in the Marines. And I felt like sometimes they would kind of call my bullshit a little bit if I was a little too high strung or a little something. It always kind of kept me resonated to like the rest of the world, I guess you could say. And then just through transition with police world, loved the work of it. But I think I got to a point where I was just running and gunning for a certain amount of time. I was just kind of done. But then having a spouse or just having people around you that are that open you up to just shedding some light on different perspectives of thought. How important was the timing of when she decided to open your mind on all of that? How important was the timing to when that all happened?
I don't know about important, it just kind of fell into place that way.
Yeah.
I wish I had been more open to it sooner in my career, but then again, maybe not, because the circumstances of command and combat require certain styles, certain personalities and leadership. So, it is very circumstantial, what you believe in and when you believe in it. And I believe that I was mentored and groomed to think and believe through the military way of life and lifestyle. And I was super successful. I had failures too, but so I can't discredit the way I was or who you guys thought I was back then, because that probably was needed, but now I'm not in the Marine Corps anymore. I'm not commanding troops. I'm not shooting bad guys. I'm not trying to, do all this stuff. And so now there's a requirement to change, to evolve, to grow to the new circumstances, and I look at a lot of people who can't let go of the Marine Corps. They've gotten out of the Marine Corps. They've been out of the Marine Corps for 5-10 years, and they can't let go of the Marine Corps. And they wonder why they're grumpy and angry and marginally successful. And it's like, yeah, because you're not embracing change. You're not evolving to meet the current situation that you're in and the needs and the demands of those situations. You're fixed. And so, was it important? I more probably lucky. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to recognize, whether consciously or not, the need to change. Right. And, I still fall back to who I was every now and then, get grumpy or whatever. But here's one thing I know is I get turned off by douchebags that are so cocky, arrogant, strongly opinionated, super aggressive. And I know I can be that way at times, but I get turned off. I look at those people and I just want to thank them for reminding me who I don't want to be, because I would be less than not successful if I was still like that.
Right.
It's a good reminder. Or sometimes
to all the assholes out there, just thanks, man.
Yeah. No shit. He's like looking at me when he says it like, hey, loudmouth Will, I appreciate you reminding me not to run my mouth. No, it's true, man. And I think, something that we've been kind of touching on this entire time is just how important, your surroundings, how important the people that are around you that love you and support you no matter what, but we'll tell you the truth, or we'll speak, or at least give you that perspective. And it's funny because I get a certain look whenever we're out doing real estate or we're leading our team, and but then Eli will tell you, like, something I've really wanted to work on was just the self-awareness and just, am I being too critical? Am I approaching this the right way? And then I end up apologizing to Eli for things maybe he hasn't even thought of yet. But when you have good people around you and you value them and you care about how they see you, if you make a mistake or if there's something that maybe you could have handled better, like, I almost feel like it's my obligation to try to reach out and go, hey, like, just so they know, hey, I'm aware. Hey, that could have been better. And because you respect me and because you're kind of ride or die with me in business, I want you to know that, hey, that came to mind. And I realized without you even saying it, man, that could have been better. And I'll be better on the next one. And then actually doing it. And that's something that's been important for me is, like you say, Tosh, just the type of people that have been around you. And my significant other, man, she's super smart, writes code. She couldn't be more opposite from me, which, again, it allows you to see yourself from a different lens if those people feel safe enough to actually mention it. And that's something that I've had to work on. I've always been a Care Bear. I've always been open to advice, but I talk a lot. I've got a certain presence. I had to really work on showing people that I was open to that type of honesty or just their perspective. Because if they don't feel like you're open to it, even if you're not showing that, if you're not taking it upon yourself to just make that available for them, you might not get that opinion. And that's been something I've worked on, a ton, and he gets to capitalize on. He gets to talk shit to me all day. Tosh, you should see this guy behind the scenes.
You can imagine me talking shit to him. Huh?
Freaking, he's a monster. Hey, Tosh, you're circumcised because of this fucking guy. Don't let this guy be nice to you and fool you, bro. We had that talk when we were eating pork.
I was about to talk shit earlier, and I got 3 words
about
out.
My circumcision. All right, that's my business, man. That's my business.
Shit.
Hey, something that you've been speaking on a little bit, Tosh, like on your podcast and things like that, is just and something that we spoke about, constructive talk, like where you don't necessarily have to agree. Like one time I remember you and I had a great conversation on self-promotion, because that's something that you're not big on. You're not necessarily against it. You're not for it. It really, again, it's like when Eli says you're kind of unscripted. It's, hey, I'm not for it. I'm not against it. It really just kind of comes down to the person and their motives and how they do it. And, I guess for the sake of this podcast, we were kind of seeing it from different thoughts. And because, I'm about like, hey, yeah, I definitely self-promote. There's some things we're doing. And I kind of come from that leadership mindset still, I guess, from the Marine Corps of, if you're, especially in our industry, because there's not a lot of leadership in our industry. And something we fell back to, like in the infantry, is, hey, depending on what's going on, if you're looking around waiting for someone to tell you to do something, that person that's supposed to be leading, he might not be there anymore. Or he might be in a place where he can't communicate with you. So if you're looking around waiting for someone to lead and there's nothing around, that's when maybe you should identify and take it upon yourself to just stand up and take some leadership, at least within the scope that you can speak to. And we had a great, just constructive debate about, okay, not for it, not against it, but let's dive into that. What does that look like, and what's the appropriate way? And speaking to you and not being afraid to talk to you about it, because you and I were first talking, I did have the impression that you disagreed with maybe my approach of self-promotion, when in reality you didn't. It was kind of like how you go about it. But having that constructive debate actually solidified me feeling like I was doing it appropriately versus being too scared to talk to you about it. And, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think society, sometimes we do kind of miss that constructive debate, and it limits you on your thought process, man, and where you can take it.
Yeah. I'm, not talking specifically about self-promotion, but the concept that the debate that we had, or the discussion, was more about what was the purpose, and how you go about doing it with dignity and respect and honor, and it matches the goals and the ambitions. And there's a level of authenticity and honesty. There's a lot of people that self-promote, and what are they promoting? Fairy tale and bullshit. And there's a lot of people that self-promote because they need to, because then they can get a greater audience, because nobody else is going to promote them for themselves, because everybody's competing with each other. And those two different examples right there shows that, one, I agree, right? Like, you do need to promote yourself, but it's the manner in which you do it, and we had a really good discussion. And so really what we're talking about is, if you're not open to listening to other people, you're never going to really, man, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, like, discussion is good, and healthy debate is good, because it either shores up your position even better, mm-hmm. and helps you understand what you believe in even more, mm-hmm. Or it helps you change and become better, or it enlightens you, or you find out, oh wow, I am wrong. You know what I mean? And there's no right or wrong. It's just like good discussion to help you have different perspectives, different viewpoints, different ways to think. I'm talking in circles right now.
No, it's good. And I'll give you like a little hint on what we were talking about, because we followed up that conversation and something that you gave me. We were talking about, a specific individual that's out there in the market, and not going to say his name. It's not about, disrespecting anybody. And it's not even just the one specific person we were talking about. So I don't think that matters, but you gave me some advice, and you said, yeah, man, don't lose who you are for who you are, right? And I think that matters, because even if you are out there promoting yourself with dignity and respect, and you're trying to bring an audience, and you really feel wholeheartedly you can bring some good to whatever audience you're trying to bring it to, you also don't want to become a gimmick, because people like for example, like if I'm this Marine, right? Oh, Marines, and rah rah rah, right? And that's what people are wanting to like see out of you, because they've never maybe gotten that before, right? And then you just continue to like duplicate that and create that. You end up literally forgetting who you are for who you are, and you become this gimmick. And I think it can creep up on you a little bit more, than we see. And when we were first talking about that, and Eli can kind of attest this, people would always like kind of do that to me, Tosh. Oh yeah, Marine, mm-hmm. and, oh yeah, boot camp. And I'm like, hey, there's some things that I accomplished in the Marine Corps that were, way beyond boot camp. And actually, you know what, man, that's not who we were. Matter of fact, like where I served, guys had to try so hard to get there. They were locked on. They were good dudes. I was not babysitting their field days. I was not wiping their ass. Like what you guys saw in Full Metal Jacket, like, no, that's not the Marine Corps. So, shedding some light on, one, being okay to just be human, right? And just speaking like, no, hey, like that's just a decision I made, but here's who I am, and that's a layer to this onion. But I also felt better about being me because I feel like people had a limited perception of what they think the Marine Corps actually is, and I'd be doing a disservice to that audience if I lost who I was for who I was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all riffs on just believing your own bullshit. You know, I always say that over and over. I get tired of hearing myself even say that, you know, believe your own bullshit. And,
We need it though, man.
I think that I say that all the time that I end up becoming less confident because I'm so afraid that, oh man, and then you become hesitant or then you become indecisive and it's like, oh, hey, there's got to be a balance, you know? So
Right.
I've been trying to say it less often or find different ways to say it, but really that's what it is. You know, I refuse to be a gimmick. I don't want to be a gimmick.
Yeah.
I think it devalues the message I'm trying to communicate and give to other people. There are individuals that are gimmicks and they do it really well and they're adding value. And hey, you know what? Cool. Good on them, man. You're adding positive value to other people's lives by being a gimmick and it fits your style. And if you've thought about it, hey, good to go. And if you're feeding your own ego through it and it's still creating benefit, hey, that's good to go too. But it's the people that are gimmicks for the sake of being a gimmick because it's very, very self-interested. I just have a problem with people that are supremely self-interested.
Can you elaborate on the word gimmick a little bit? Because I've heard you mention that again before, and my take on it is somebody playing a character of themselves in a way. Is that kind of what you're talking about when maybe it's not really them?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And they've played it so long that it becomes them.
Right.
So that's where you've lost who you are because of who you are.
Gotcha.
And
So that gimmick could
it's
be
like,
could be created by your own thoughts, but that gimmick could also be something you were prior that you over accentuate. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. Or you're just trying to feed in like, oh, hey, let's use Will Grimes. Like if didn't have the conversation with people saying, oh, you know, that boot camp piece, that's what you saw in, you know, whatever movie or whatever that was a movie, man. And if you decide that you want to continue to reinforce that persona and then you become that persona and it's like, hey, you know what? Like that's not even real.
Like
maybe
Arlie
it was
Ermy.
real for a period of time.
Right.
Maybe it was cute for a period of time or something, but it's really, there's so much more than just that. But
There
if that's
is.
the only thing that you're going to use me, for example, I've used this, right? Like, so people, okay, so you were awarded the Navy Cross for doing something. Yeah, that was 10 minutes of my freaking life. And I was supremely lucky. And if that's all you're ever going to know me, if the only thing you're ever going to know me for and give me credit for every single thing I do for the rest of my life because of 10 minutes, that's wrong. And if I allow you and I continue to feed that and I act that way, and I'm just as wrong because there's so much more. 10 minutes, man. That 10 minutes of your life, right? Like, come on, I'm so much more than that. You know, so if I continue to perpetuate that persona, that stereotype, inevitably you're doing harm.
One of the things I like about you, man, is you constantly seem to be testing yourself and proving yourself to yourself. And one of the things I wanted to bring up, and people definitely go check this out. You did this video not too long ago. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm glad
sure
you're
it's on your
mentioning
page.
this. Yeah.
Where you just go and you chop a fucking tree up for 24 hours, man, just because, and it's you and a camera, and it's a super cool video. You guys should. Where can people find that video? First of all, is that on your YouTube channel?
Instagram.
Yeah, you can. You know, it's funny because I was going to repost that. Somebody sent me a message the other day saying, "Hey, this is so valuable right now for me. I'm glad I came across it." I'm like, "Yeah, hey, appreciate that. I should repost that." And I'm constantly trying to challenge myself. You know, instead of sitting back in the lazy boy, confident with who you are because of your past accomplishments. You know,
You realize how dangerous that can be, huh?
Oh man, it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
So dangerous, Eli. Yeah. So I always try to do something cool every year or so, you know.
Tell
Got a buddy
people
says that he always has to earn his trident.
Tell people what you did there. Break down that video a little bit.
Yeah, so I get in trouble because I call it a man test. And it's like, oh, well, you know, I could have done it. You know, it doesn't have to be just a man. You know, I could
But
be
you're
a
a
woman
man.
and do
It's
it.
a man
Like,
test.
hey, I'm a man. I do man tests.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you know, I do a lot of women tests too. I do cool shit that are associated with masculine tasks and feminine tasks. I have a plenty of both of those traits. You know, feminine classified traits and masculine classified traits. I don't look at that as sexist or anything. But anyways, every year I just try to do a man test, and I've said, you know, I've never chopped a tree down like a this was inspired by somebody else. And so I just took an axe and I said, hey, I want to try to, so there's a lot to it, right? Like I'd want to pick out a tree that is going to test me, not something that I know I can do. You know, oh, I'm going to go chop down this 6-inch tree and yay, I did something.
Right,
That's not really a test, you know, and I don't want to pick up a massive tree that I don't do and I fail. So like there's something really powerful in who are you? Do you know who you are, that you can pick out the right tree that it's going to test you to the limits? And it's a realistic goal that potentially could still not accomplish, but the reality, the high probability that you could, like you just try to find that nice fine line. And so I hiked through the backyard looking for a tree, found a really cool tree far enough away from the house, and I split it with an axe. And I used a handsaw too, and a sledge and a wedge. But I wanted to do it without a chainsaw, and I wanted it to last 24 hours. You know, how big of a tree could I get that I could still do it and bring it all back to the house within 24 hours? And you just set your mind to it, and it was hard. It was really, really hard. It was so cool. You learn so much about yourself. And then when you're in that space of challenge, you start thinking things. Your mind is just opens up to different thoughts and feelings, and you just try to share them. And I was fortunate, you know, we did it with a camera crew so they could capture some of this stuff. And they produced it. It turned out really, really well. But man, I was damn near broken after doing that. But it was cool. It was real rewarding. And, you know, I had a couple people, oh, you're just chopping down a tree. I'm like, yeah, hey, that's firewood for the year, douchebag. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just indiscriminately cut down a tree to cut, like, that trees still have a couple rounds left, you know, fueling firewood for the fireplace. So, you know, it was purposeful through and through and through.
Yeah. How do you feel, you know, and obviously people are going through some things with COVID, you know, and something I've tried to this is something I've tried to understand in people too, because a lot of times people can inadvertently put you on a pedestal because you've been through some certain things. And when I got back to the civilian world, especially when I was done with, you know, military stuff and police world, if someone had something affecting them and I didn't think it was a big deal, I treated it like it wasn't a big deal. Like if it was a 3 out of 10 on a stress Richter for me, I'm like, what are you bitching about? What's the big deal? What I had to realize was, hey, that might be a 9 for them, depending on what they're going through. That might, you know, and you have to, if they're freaking out or if they're stressed, you know, you have to treat it as such. And that's something that, you know, when I started opening my eyes to that as a police officer, people heard you better, you communicated better versus having that friction of thinking that you're here because you've been through more. Like nobody cares. And it's not relevant because whatever they're going through, it's such a big deal. And do you think there's some takeaways, you know, from putting yourself into, like, forcefully putting yourself into those trials and tribulations and doubt? Does that correlate at all as far as what some people might be going through right now, personally right now, or in business right now with the shutdown? Is there anything that they can do, you know, to correlate some similarities to that as well? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Like we talked before we started recording, you know, I live my life to try to live my life now, to be prepared, right? Constantly be prepared for the unknown, the unknowable, the uncertainty, and because that's the only thing that's certain. You know, tomorrow's not a promise that it's going to come, and hardship, you know, is not a promise that it's going to pass either. And not all people are going to face hardship. It's one of those things though. Like I live my life to constantly make my 9s a 7. And then make my 7s 4s, and then find what the new 9 is, and then make that a 7, and then make that a 4, and then find a new 9. And when you live your life that way, to constantly build this sort of resiliency, this grit, things aren't as the magnitude of things don't weigh you down, and it allows you to think more rationally and be clear and be successful and get through stuff. And you said, like, hey, just because it's a 3 out of 10 for me doesn't mean that it's not a 9 out of 10 for you. Hey, that's true. And you know, you have to treat people, but it's also cool to help them understand, well, why? I'll never tell somebody that, hey, this shouldn't be a 9 out of 10 for you. Okay, cool. It's a 9 out of 10 for you. Why is it a 9 out of 10 for you? What's making you feel that way? I'll never tell anybody that they're not allowed to feel something, because what you feel is real. Right.
Yep.
If you're feeling anxiety right now, I shouldn't tell you, like, you have nothing to be anxious about. You shouldn't feel anxious. You're not scared. Like, that's not my place. If you're feeling that, okay, cool. Let's acknowledge that, and now tell me why. What's causing you to feel this way?
Yeah.
What's making that? Let's get back rational then, and figure out the causes, and then let's tackle those, and then maybe we can mitigate that from a 9 down to a 7 down to a 4.
And a lot of it sometimes isn't real, right? Like a lot of it, especially when I was a police officer, it was just how some of these folks had grown up and their perception of police world, or their perception of, if you're going to get a ticket, what happens, or if you get arrested, what happens, and you're going to be, introduced to the system, quote unquote. So a lot of their 9s out of 10s, just that process right there, Tosh, that you're talking about, just going over some of their fears and just identifying with whether these fears were even real at all, and I think that kind of cracks on half of it. And this is also, and I know this is off topic, but this is where a lot of the media and some of the stuff that you were speaking about today on your posts on Facebook and on Instagram, when you were pointing your finger, and I was like, we're gonna have a good talk today, and your thoughts are going, a lot of people's fears, or a lot of people's like stress right now, like, yes, we're accountable for ourselves, right? And outside influences, we have to manage that, but a lot of it is just, it's inaccurate. And there's an agenda behind it, and then it creates just chaos. And then it's like, hey, is any of this even real? And what's the difference between that, where you're not necessarily like, so for example, with what people are going through right now, it's obviously not self-induced, right? Like, this is something that's happening to the globe, and you're a part of it with whether you like it or not. But you've also done, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the ultra runs. You've done a lot of extreme athletic stuff. Can you explain, just from your perspective, how self-inducing you into extreme athletics, into that exercise you did with chopping the tree, into these man tests that you do for yourself, when you voluntarily invite yourself into storms like that, how well does it prepare you when it's involuntary but you can still navigate through?
Yeah, it teaches you to be okay. It teaches you that you can be okay. I think that's the biggest narrative with people. Like, well, let's go back. We're creatures of comfort. We are. That's the way our mind works, right? Up in here, we constantly, if given our own devices, absent of conscious thought and determination, we will go path of least resistance. We will go towards comfort. We will go towards soothing, and you gotta be aware of that. I'm not saying that that's wrong. You just need to be aware of it, and it's okay. Oh, I'm hungry. I'm going to go to the fridge and eat. It's okay to be hungry. You don't have to go. You don't have to placate that need. You can be okay. And so I like to do things deliberately to resist that path of least resistance, to resist that seeking of comfort or solving things. So that's one piece. You can dig into that some other day. There's another thing too, where people seem to thrive off of needing conflict or drama, right? We need to create conflict or drama in order to have value and meaning to our existence, value and meaning to our resistance to that conflict and drama. And it's like, yeah, why? Why do I need to create, undo? Life is stressful enough, man. Why do I need to create more? Does it give me something to do? Give me a distraction from my own shitty little problems.
See, and that's what I mean? And that's where it's like, I think life isn't stressful enough for a lot of people. Yeah, we have like daily life stressors, but I think because, like you said, we seek that path of least resistance, I don't think it's stressful enough, which is why people want to, I think subconsciously, man, they'll seek that conflict to add additional stress into their life, versus a guy like you who's constantly creating controlled stress in his life. You have no desire for additional stressors like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Or how about this? How about life is so stressful? How about who you are is so stressful to you that you need a distraction?
Yeah.
Now, let's focus on this other stress so that I don't have to focus on how shitty of a human being I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I shouldn't say that because that's not fair. That's ugly me. But like, hey, I'm wrestling with a lot of self-doubt and a lot of things going on for me and who I am and my own problems. I need to have somebody else's shitty little problem or drama or conflict or conspiracy in order to be able to say, oh, well, that's why.
That's when you tune in. That's when you tune into the Kardashians.
Well, and here, no, they're nice girls. You stop it. Now, I got a question, and I want to make sure I keep it on track. But we call that is that a soapbox per se? Maybe. What I'm really curious about, and we kind of go back around to people. And this could just be from my lens, but I think a lot of victims nowadays are being rewarded or awarded or given attention that's maybe, not normally warranted. And then when people conduct that behavior and their circle coddles that or promotes that, how toxic can that be?
Yeah, it's 100% toxic because we do reward being a victim. Mm-hmm. Victims get attention. Victims get sympathy. Victims get the things that their ego or personality. Now that's not fair either, because there's a lot of people that are victims of shit, and it sucks. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like, oh, hey, cool. Like when we give undue sympathy is just a form of judgment, really. Mm-hmm. Sympathy is judgment. But this victim mentality, and it's subtle, it's insidious. It doesn't mean like, oh, like I've been slighted. Like it's just, it does get rewarded with attention or like I said, sympathy, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, hey, stop that.
And just, I wish, this might just be me as well, but I wish, because I think sympathy is okay sometimes. I think you're right, man. There are people that are going through something super hard temporarily, or maybe it's something that's permanent. You lost a limb or you've got a health condition and it's permanent. But I guess what I'm getting at is like people tend to just settle within that sympathy and they start like almost like that coddling happens so much it just becomes habitual to them versus like if you're in a temporary situation and maybe someone helps you out, throws you some money or something and kind of gets you to have a hard time. When does it become, your responsibility to then, hey, you've got to work your way back out of that, right? And like I remember, and this is something I do take away from like the Marine Corps. I remember every first sergeant on the fucking planet, they had an open door policy. I swear it was in like first sergeant school. They all had this rule where like you tell Marines, right, hey, they can jump chain of command. I got an open door policy. But the one thing that they all said, all the good leaders was, hey, you can come to me with any problem you want, but you better also have a solution with you. And maybe it's not the solution that I say is the right solution, but if you're going to come to me with a conflict, you've got it, and you've put that much thought into it, okay, then you at whatever level you're at, corporal, sergeant, lance corporal, whatever it is, great, then what is your solution? What do you think? How can we combat this? And I think that's a great habit for just everyone. It's like, hey, you've got a problem or maybe like you're seeing something that's a problem within your family or your peers, but then we have no next step to try to create a solution for it. And I think that's where we go wrong. And then we end up just soiling in this sympathy and these complaints in this soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole open door policy just made me laugh, because that's true. You know what I mean? Yeah, I got an open door policy. You can come talk to me anytime you want. But you better have talked to everybody in your chain of command first before you got to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's hard to talk in absolutes. We got to talk in terms of general, like the 80% or 70%, there's always gonna be exceptions. And I think there's a certain thing going on where, I've got a problem, like an expectation that somebody else is going to solve it for you or fix it for you.
Right.
And you don't want to go through the hard work or you want to circumvent the hardship and go straight to the comfort and, it's going to be okay, and hey, it is okay. It's not going to be okay. The fact that you're dealing with this problem, the fact that, you have it is okay to have a problem. I mean, if you show me somebody that doesn't go through problems, then I'll show you somebody that hasn't developed coping mechanisms and skills, and they're just always going to be dependent. You look at it as a parent. Take this two different ways. As a parent watching your, and I can talk to you, Will, with your new one. If you always rushed to pick them up and tell them it's okay and comfort and soothe them after they fell when they were learning to walk, they're never going to grow up to be hard. You're never going to grow up to be okay. They're always going to need somebody to help soothe, you know? And if you never let them fall, they're never going to learn to walk, you know? So you got to be okay. Now, what's an appropriate fall? Now, that doesn't mean that I'm teaching my kid how to walk on a balance beam that's 20 feet above lava. You know what I mean? There's appropriateness. Like, hey, let's learn to walk on the carpet, not the concrete, right? Let's move the coffee table out of the living room while they're learning to walk this week. You know what I mean? Like, so but that's like setting conditions for them to have a little bit of hardship and some struggle. You know, when you look at it from gardening, you know, when you were growing those little beans and sunflowers when you were a little kid, right? And it started to sprout and the sunflower still had the seed stuck to it as it was trying to sprout. What did you want to do?
You pluck that bitch off.
You wanted to help it, right? You wanted to help that plant by picking that little seed off. And all you did was make that plant weak. And it probably didn't survive because it needs to go through that struggle. You know what I mean? And that's just life, man. Lessons, every lesson that you need to learn, you learn from Mother Nature. Just watch and observe it.
And a lot of it's your perspective, though, too. And I'm glad we're having this banter because what I wanted to kind of like review back into was when you spoke about character, right? Like how that developed for you. Because obviously we're hearing a lot of real time, how you know, just how you see life in your lens and, you know, definitely putting yourself under pressure and hardships and hey, maybe I'm going to fail this, maybe I'm not, but I'm going to take so much away from this and understanding the value behind some of that so much to the point to where you voluntarily do it and you apply that pressure to yourself. And obviously, you know, maybe not obviously, but character tends to mature over time. But where does all of this current day Tosh fall in and how does like character play into that? Like, is that something that still continues for you or just like, where does your thought process come from? Does it come from your leadership? Was there something that was in you from time in boot camp of just who you wanted to be? Like, for example, to give you like a little bit of a lead in, I remember going through boot camp and man, probably 3 weeks in, guys started crying in their bunks and guys started giving up when we were getting IT'd on the deck. And I started looking around and it wasn't, and I didn't have any bad ill toward anyone, but I started looking around at some of those guys breaking and I go, man, I remember telling myself like, God, I haven't broke yet. Like, okay, I'm okay. Like, oh, and then I started like taking on almost more motivation. Like, man, how long can I go till I break? Like, what can I do? Like, how hard can I be? And I started thinking about who do I want to be as a Marine? And then that was like a very beginning stage for me just as a young adult of like actually looking at not only being a Marine, but like who you specifically as a Marine were and how you wanted to not only represent the Marine Corps, but yourself. And then, man, that's bled into like, I guess my character as in like, who do you want to be as a father? How do you want to be remembered as a father? How do you want to execute that? Who do you want to be as a business person? And where does character correlate into all this, man?
Is
that the right word for it? Is it character? Is it,
I just don't think it's character, but I'm sorting through what I need to say, I think, or where you're going. Like, different people are wired different ways, you know, and boot camp rewires you. That's the goal of boot camp, right? Like, it's supposed to rewire you. It's supposed to bring people from all over America with all different walks of life, cultures, backgrounds, upbringings, whatever, and put you all in, strip you of all that identity and give you a new one and rewire you, right? Like, that's fine. That's fair. That's military. The reality, though, is the general world doesn't really work that way. We have to have a system where it allows for people to be wired different ways and to embrace their wiring. Really understanding the schematics of how they're wired is what's more important and what they're wired for. You know, I want to know, like, hey, this person's wired this way. Okay, cool. Like, I want to understand why you're wired, where your best that wiring's going to fit and serve, and then help you given your schematics to do intimate to optimize your performance and who you are as a human being, optimize your life based off of how you're wired, you know? And we don't even have to use wiring. We all have different personality traits. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. And you can't just form fit everybody and tell them like, hey, this is the way you need to do it. Like, hey, we have the way we believe, you know? I push myself towards my struggle points and my opportunity to fail because that's the way I'm wired. other people that aren't wired that way. We need to figure out ways to communicate to them so that they can still get the benefits of struggle, just in a different way. And I think through conversation and self-awareness is the best way to get them to understand how they're wired, and we start trying to follow, when we start trying to follow other people's templates for success, we stop being ourselves. We stop being responsive to who we are, and we start trying to be more in the likes of somebody else. And I don't think that's healthy, so I don't know if I just rambled and said anything of value.
No, it's good. And it's something that, I think a lot of, and Tosh, us, man, we're in the real estate world and own a team. And there's a lot of team owners out there and a lot of people that do that profession, alongside of us that listen to our podcast. And I think that's great, man, because something that you hit on wasn't, it's not so much about, wiring someone a certain way, but understanding how they're already organically wired and then how to really get the best out of them and how to just get them to be motivated to do better. You've got to figure out, you're right, man, like what makes them tick. And I think when you say that, it's so spot on, because when I look back at my my Marine Corps history, history like I'm fucking old, my Marine Corps career, as much as people might not think that like real estate or and then police work and military work have anything in common, they have a lot in common. And I think it's me being wired for service. It's me. Now, I do feel good when I do a good job. I understand a lot of responsibility behind leadership, and there's not some fun times, but the feeling selfishly that I get when I lead someone, proficiently and I see them succeed, it does. I don't know if that's selfish, but it makes me feel good. And when you correlate walking someone through stressful environments, man, even as something as things we saw every day as a cop, someone gets in a car accident and they're disoriented and they're in some pain, just showing up on scene and being able to walk them through a hard time and making them calm down and even going to the hospital with them, but just explaining things that are coming next and really managing their emotions and their stress. And when you look back at like leadership in the Marine Corps and how you got to be there for your Marines during some times, and man, all of that, it fits so well into real estate. And something that I started figuring out, man, about 6 months into real estate was not trying to like wear a tie or do some template or be somebody else, but really figure out, how does Will fit into real estate? Like, what makes me tick? How am I wired? Right. And then how does that apply to real estate? And that's what we started doing with our business model. And then when we got people onto our team, it was very similar. It was, man, just times where these girls on our team, they cried in our office and they've gone through some horrible things that I can't even speak to, man, but they were comfortable enough to talk about it. And we figured out what made them tick, and we figured out how to make them excel as them in real estate. So I think you're spot on with not just, how someone's wired, but how to just get the max out of them. I think it's a huge thing that all leaders could take, Well,
and Tosh, I want to ask about your podcast again, man. And first of all, I love the format that you do it in, where you get on there and you just talk, right? And if you're trying to figure out a thought, you say, hey, I'm trying to figure this out as I'm kind of thinking about it. Yeah. But man, I've never questioned myself more ever than before listening to your podcast, dude. And I think it's such a good thing that you're doing, because you've got every right in the world to be that guy that you talk about hating, right?
Douchebag.
Where it's like,
you have every right to be a douchebag for the rest of your life, is what he's saying.
And you haven't even talked about your accomplishments or anything, but yeah, I Googled you, and it's like, God damn, man. And I listened to you, and it's like, when you're constantly, again, proving yourself to yourself, which makes me look at myself and I'm like, oh, fuck, Eli, you ain't done shit, man. You need to be like extra on top of this. But it's really good, and it's good for men out there, because we just have way too much confidence, man. I think there's way too much self-confidence in guys, a false sense of confidence. And it's one thing to be, I guess, prepared and confident and, deliver whatever your message is, on the outside, but internally is where I think you really need to be doing that thinking and that questioning. And yeah, I'm not going to maybe, my wife may not know everything that's going on in my head, how much I'm questioning myself, because I do feel like, I need to be kind of a pillar of strength. Not that I can't show her my weaknesses, but internally, man, you've made me question myself a lot and make me want to just prove myself to myself a lot. It's really good what you're doing, man. Question about the podcast name, Crooked Butterfly. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I'll answer that in a second. I want to go back to what you were saying. Yeah. I just want to accentuate a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Because I think confidence is good. I think confidence is essential. But when your confidence cup overflows, what you become like arrogant, right? And if your confidence cup doesn't have enough in it, you become indecisive, and you become impotent towards progress. And one of the greatest things you could do to help that quality level of confidence, a quality confidence in the greatest of senses, is to question. We have to question. We have to question ourselves. We have to question others, but we have to do it in the right way. And in finding the right way to question respectfully ourselves and others is essential. It's constantly questioning: Am I doing this right? Am I a good person? Can I be better? Can I do more? Or whatever the questions need to be. That's how we start to feed growth. And the overconfidence is a weakness.
Huge.
Will, my stories, like how many times have I seen the overconfident so-and-so, and it's just like, oh yeah, game on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't end well.
That dude is overconfident. I know exactly what to do to that dude.
Yeah.
It's the guy that's a little bit like, he's always thinking, he's always not over-calculating, not overthinking, but just like an appropriate level. And where is that?
Yeah.
And you don't really get to know what the appropriate level of questioning is until you just do it more often. And I don't know, the podcast is cool because I do question myself a lot. Probably a lot more inside, but my actions, I probably don't question myself as much as I allow my internal dialogue to be aware, people be aware of, which is, I think, is good, and I'm looking for balance. Because I felt that in my life outside of the Marine Corps now, and trying to be successful and trying to do things for others and constantly questioning myself. But when I question too much, I become less effective. People have less confidence in me. So it's appropriate level, and it's the appropriate questions, not the weird ones,
Well, it's like finding that tree, right? Like just big enough to like, man, I think I can get this, but I'm gonna have to prove it.
It goes it goes a layer further too, though, when you start talking about people, because and obviously us having our brand Day 1.0 and being out in the forefront with real estate, and you and I, I'm so fortunate to have a partner who's not a Marine, who's not me. And if you're listening to this podcast, you can tell the questions that Eli asks Tosh are sometimes better than the ones that I can ask, or the ones that I can vibe with.
Not sometimes. Every question that Eli's asked has been, it's like, he moves
I love
me.
you, bro.
Yeah, he moves me.
And it's well, hey, appreciate your honesty. And he's I like talking to him more than you anyway, bro. So don't worry about it. No, but it's good, and it's okay. It's okay there. And a lot of times too, like, I don't even know if I have a question for Tosh, or if I'm trying to like pull something out of him, something that I've gained, and I'm trying to pull something out of him for the audience, versus Eli, a completely different lens, completely different upbringing, completely different profession. Some of your questions just hit so well, and they're so honest, and I think it's fair to some of the audience. But when we talk about questioning ourselves too much, it's one thing to question yourself, and then and an obstacle that you are doubting whether you can accomplish it on a 4-minute mile, cutting this tree down. But it's a whole nother layer when you start questioning yourself, because you're trying to be kind to an audience, versus like questioning yourself and diving into something and making sure that, like, yeah, this is my stance, this is what I believe, and hey, some people aren't going to like that, versus getting off of the tracks and literally overly questioning yourself because you are overly concerned with like people that are listening to it and whether you're going to appeal to that or not.
Well, I think what I see with both you guys is, you guys are seemingly like looking for your own feedback. Like, all right, I did my action was my action. What was the result? And that was something with Will that, was just so awesome to see over the few years that we've worked together, is there's constantly, like, if he did something that I didn't agree with or something, I never said anything. I would sit back because I know he's fucking watching the result, and he's going to adjust based off the result. There was never any doubt in my mind, like if he was doing something or having a conversation with somebody on our team that maybe I didn't think I would be having. Well, it's a lot that I wouldn't have, but fuck, I didn't know what the hell I was
Tosh,
doing.
there's been some times where he's biting nails. Is what he's trying to say.
Yeah. But I always trusted you enough that regardless of what the outcome was, good or bad, you're always making adjustments based off of that.
There's going to be some honesty, and I think, Tosh, that's what you've been speaking about a little bit, right? Is that self-awareness, like especially like when you have a business partner that trusts you, or even a partner like like with your significant other, like when you trust me with leadership and you trust me with the team, and you know that I'm going to be paying attention to a result. It's my responsibility to where like I've got to be honest the results that are playing out, and I can't keep trying to blind myself to what's really happening to force my agenda, or because I'm too afraid to be wrong with what I'm trying, versus hey, it's okay, we just got to start making some adjustments because that outcome is not what we're looking for. And there's a lot of trust and partnerships that go into that, especially in in business.
Yeah definitely.
Yeah, well, I keep thinking like trust is awesome when it's combined with healthy suspicion and a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And now we're talking relationships. Now we're talking common courtesy, dignity, respect, but it has to come with healthy suspicion, healthy as the adjective, and then a benefit of the doubt, right? So, walking through my life, we all make assumptions. We're creatures of making assumptions. And I just try to confirm or deny. Every time I make an assumption, I'm obligated then to confirm or deny it. And I believe that in business partners and relationships, and you do it with love and respect and care, healthy suspicion and benefit of doubt. So I think that's a cool.
And that level of commitment on top of that. Like I know with our partnership, our conversations and discussions or disagreements are 1,000 times easier when we both know our relationship is secure. Neither one of us is trying to go anywhere. We're not threatening each other. That's not even on the table at all, and that just allows our discussions to be the most productive. Just knowing, hey, we can yell at each other all day long. We don't. But if we did, at the end of the day, our relationship is secure.
It's huge.
You both want the same thing. You both have the same purpose, the same calling. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's that trust that
it's fortunate to find yourself in that. In the military, we were expected to operate from that platform, and we were given our relationships.
Right.
We didn't have a choice. And so, reconciling living this way that we're talking about now inside of a military environment construct, can be hard because a lot of times you don't get to choose your leaders. You don't get to choose your subordinates, your coworkers, your peers. You figure out like, hey, you just have to do it. So we have to have something. And that's why we can look at the differences in the execution and the processes that the military has and what works well there. But then also understand that the world we live in outside of the military is completely different. That's why there's different processes. That's why there's different things and systems and procedures, outside. We can leverage what we learned from one arena to iterate it and evolve it into the other arena, but they're not going to be 100% transferable. And that's why I like what you guys do and, Will, in our conversations and, the real estate world, you're taking military lessons and you're iterating them and you're massaging them and they're evolving and they're being applied into the real estate world. And it's kind of contrarian to what the real estate world, quote unquote, real estate world has been known and the way that they're supposed to operate. It's very challenging to them, but it's also appropriate, and the measure of whether or not it's right or wrong is how successful are you?
We're crushing. And I think, if you go a layer, I'm going to move Tosh real quick since Eli's always moving you. I'm going to move you, Tosh. It's not, when you go a layer further, and this is actually, I've learned it from him, so I can't take credit, but when you go a layer further into real estate, you realize they're people. You realize that there is that there are some people, man, that just want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They want to contribute. They want to be a part of some camaraderie. But then you have to expose them to what camaraderie really is. And you can't expose them to the difficulties behind camaraderie unless they've trusted you as a leader. And there's a lot of amazing things that we have maybe forced upon us, in the military, but then we saw some of the qualities of it. But the bottom line is I started to realize that, yes, real estate had a lot of like systems that were failing, right? Just after action reports after every deal, peer evaluations and talking as a team and chain of commands within teams and how that opens up, lines of communication. Of course, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I just came from a place that created a certain wheel and I can implement that over here. But what I started figuring out was, man, people just want to be a part of it. I think CrossFit has done an amazing job at that as well. They're utilizing fitness, but there's camaraderie, there's fitness, but there's challenge. People are pushing each other in CrossFit. Competitors work out at the same gym, but then they go crush, and there's a lot of great things. I'm really just trying to like make my version of where I've seen that success and try to implement that within these teams within real estate. And it just boils down to whether it's business, whether it's fitness or military, there's got to be some identity there that's similar. That's it's people, and exposing them to some of those traits.
Well, and I think we have all an internal desire, especially like civilians, and that's why military, people are so revered, and, we look at you guys the way that we do is because I think internally we all crave that camaraderie.
You crave what
struggle.
You think, yeah,
exactly.
What you think,
exactly.
What your thought of what it is, because there's a lot of shitty sides to the military. There's a lot of shit bags in the military, but it's what you guys, what your lens is looking at.
Well, and that's why it's so contagious, things like CrossFit, because I think that's a controlled way to have people share this common struggle.
And what's great about CrossFit, Tosh, similar to like real estate, is like, you're right, man, when you say, hey, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but hey, how well are you doing? Well, there's this thing in our world called sales, right? So if everything I was implementing here and it's fancy and you're this Marine guy, but it wasn't working, well, then there's sales. And when you're doing like your challenge that you do online, with your madness challenge, and then CrossFit, whether it's a team or an individual, look, at some point it's going to get real because you have scores. Like, hey, are we getting better as a team? Are you getting better as an individual? And I think that's also a way for people to have, just like jiu-jitsu, right? Like people have a way to identify like where the rubber meets the road. Like, are you actually proficient, or are you just like going in and checking the fucking box every day? And you want to feel like you're a part of something. You want to say you're a part of something. But we all know if you're not going through those challenges, and if you're not, exposing yourself to some of that real camaraderie where some of your friends might be smacking you in the face and checking you here and there, you're not going to feel that full dose. But I think those scores are relevant, and I think they matter. What are your thoughts on that, Tosh?
Yeah. I think, well, I'm a big CrossFit fan for sure. I've been the beneficiary of its methodology. It's made me better human being. I think better. I'm a better person. I'm healthier. I'm fitter. I'd like to take the conversation a little bit, and whether you like to CrossFit, or you like to bodybuild, or you like Zumba, or you like whatever, I don't care. I'm not going to badmouth what you like. Don't badmouth what I like. Like, I'm seeing results, and it's effective, and it's for what I want to do it for. And I find a sense of purpose and camaraderie and community. And hey, I'm not a jiu-jitsu fan, but I'm not going to talk shit about people who do jiu-jitsu. Like, if they're doing it because they love to do it and it's giving them something and they're finding value in it, like, I support you, man. And I find that's one type of personality. And then there's the other person that's like, oh, well, fuck jiu-jitsu guys or fuck CrossFitters. That's stupid. I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, the fact that you're a hater means that you got something inside of you that you don't like about yourself.
Yeah.
That's all that is to me. Like, okay, hey, cool. Like, you got to talk shit, got to slam. Like, oh, I'm a bow hunter. Well, I'm a rifle hunter. I'm a longbow hunter. I'm a high fence hunter. I'm an open range, free range. Hey, who cares? Do what you want to do. Be happy with what you want to do. The fact that you're upset about what I'm doing makes me think that you've got some problems with yourself. And so you just don't want to face those problems. And so you want to start some shit with me or somebody else. And that goes back to the conversation we had an hour ago about conflict and drama and conspiracy. It's hey, you don't want to look at your own shitty little problems, so it's easier to focus on somebody else's.
Right.
And
I mean, don't throw the rock in the glass house, whatever. I mean, there's a million. Are you guys getting all those dings?
Nuh-uh.
Are you getting all?
You
Okay, cool. Because my computer's dinging like crazy.
Oh, now we're good,
you're
man.
good.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
we
we're
won't
clean.
keep it too long, man. I'm sure there's a couple more questions we got, and we'll let you wrap up. But I do think, and by the way, like, I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy either. Like, hey, cool to you, but I'm also very similar to you, where it's like, hey, if even down to religion, if you're committed to something and you're there for the right reasons in the right way, and it's making you a better person, and you have a better effect, and your energy is better toward other human beings, I'm all for it. It might not be for me, but your approach in that realm, I'm so all for it. However, my personal opinion is I do like community. So, like, for example, I'm not a huge CrossFitter, right? Like, I've got what I do and whatever it may be. But the reason why I'm a fan of it is because it exposes you to a community. And it's relative when you're looking at other people's scores of, hey, are you actually coming in every day, crushing it, and maybe not beating someone's scores, but you're progressively getting better like everyone else is, and you're coming in and you're contributing to a team and you're putting your time in and you're proud of that, and you've got the integrity to be able to say, I'm coming in and I'm grinding, I'm getting better, versus some of the individual stuff. That's where you can kind of hide away, and that's where you can kind of go in and bench press the same weight every week or do the same exercise and work on your strong points, not work on your legs. Different stuff like that. I do think that teams in real estate, when you're around teams and other people are crushing and applying fundamentals and putting their effort and putting their part into a team, you're going to feel a certain way if you're at home not doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're away from the team and you're not contributing deals or service, and you're looking at what everybody else is doing. I do think that hits home, and I do think that it makes it real for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if whatever you're doing is making you a better person and making other people around you better people, I got no problem with it. Hey, if you want to be happy with your 225 bench press for 5 reps for the rest of your life and never progress, like, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah.
You don't have to be getting like, but if it's keeping you doing something that you like to do and that you're proud of, and it's helping you be good about yourself and helping you be good for other people, like, then it's fine, man.
Yeah.
We live in this world of comparison, and who said it? Comparison is the thief of joy. Like, I don't need to compare myself with anybody, you know, and it's cool to have references. It's cool to have metrics to measure yourself from time to time. But if you're so invested in having to measure for the sake of comparison against others,
so that balance again.
I know, like I've been the worst possible. So it's funny that I'm going here because I was thinking about this earlier, and it's like, you asked me, I forgot the question. My day 0, I realized that I was the worst possible version of myself that I'll ever allow myself to be. I'm never going back there. Day 1, $0, when I said, hey, you know what? I've been the worst possible version of myself that I will ever be. Again, period, done. And then I progress. Everything I do is towards progression. And I have relapses where I'm taking 10 steps forward and I go back 1 step and then 5 steps forward and back 1 step. Like, fine. But it's constantly progressing, and we have hiccups, we have mistakes, we have moments of weakness, and it's okay. But in the end, if the aggregate sum is positive, let's go that direction. And I'm never going back. I'm never going back to that person ever again.
I think a lot of people for their own, but just some friends of mine, like when you say it like that, Tosh, I think a lot of people for their own reasons can relate to, like, I'm never going back to what I was. Maybe it's not your day 1 or your $0 of a business, but it just, hey, I'm never going to be this guy or this girl again, And I know you asked what Crooked Butterfly meant, and then we kind of passed over that. And then, Tosh, if you don't mind, before we wrap it up, I know you've got some really cool endeavors in business. With some of the nonprofit stuff. I know, Big Fish, for an example. I'm sure there's some other endeavors you're speaking to, but I would love for the audience to kind of hear what you're diving into currently and what's coming up and how you're approaching it and what you feel just your biggest fundamentals on making that successful are.
So Crooked Butterfly first. Butterflies don't fly in straight lines. They can't. They're subject to all kinds of environmentals and whatever. They just don't fly in a straight line, and that's a lot. That's life.
Yeah.
The moment that you think you have to be following a straight line, A to B, you're screwed. Do the best that you can on the path that you're on, and allow it to wander and meander, and it's going to be beautiful.
I was going to say, and that's like that.
He's been asking me for like 4 months. Dude.
The irony too, like you mentioned, just being beautiful. That's one of the most beautiful creatures on the fucking planet, man. And probably, if you were to graph it out, probably ugly at the same time, which is really cool. You know what I mean? Just the way the transformation that they go from being this ugly little fucking worm to the most beautiful thing, but then even when they are beautiful, it's still crooked and all over the place. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
So now here's the touchy-feely side. Was when I first started dating Nicole. She, the whole got to ask all these questions. If you could be an animal, what would you be? And, here I am. I'm on the beach in Laguna Niguel with Nicole, most gorgeous woman I've ever met, and like as a human being too. Like not only physically, but like just beautiful person. And I'm this Marine. I'm like, yeah, caterpillar. That's who I am. I'm a caterpillar. What do you? She thought I was just bullshitting, I'm like, no, man. I'm like a caterpillar. It's just you're underestimated. People only take you for skin service, and then you go through this massive transformation. And you come out on the other side, and you're super beautiful. And it's like, hey, just don't underestimate. Don't make assumptions. And people go through transformations and in the butterfly thing, and that's how we started thinking about butterflies, and it's kind of cool, the transformation that we all going to go through.
Well, and at different times too, right? Like you may be in your final butterfly stage, but somebody else may just be in their little caterpillar stage. Maybe they're older than you, but in their phase of that transformation, they're just in a different place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
so
like
that's
that, man.
kind of how I see
Great
myself,
answer,
you know,
man.
as
Great answer.
that caterpillar. But
Yeah,
That's super awesome.
what am I doing now? Let's see. I've got a business I run. It's called Crooked Butterfly Ranch. It's a leadership and experiential learning endeavor. I like to work with clients, whether they're individuals or small groups or high performing teams or teams that want to be high performing or athletes, or doesn't matter. You want to be a better dad, better mom. And I just expose you to leadership philosophies, beliefs, my way of thinking a little bit. And we do stuff, you know, we contract you and I deliver what you need, not what I want to deliver. Right. Like, so a lot of my big pitch is that I don't have a curriculum. Everything is custom to the client. And I don't write my curriculum down. I don't have handouts. It's because I feel like I'm not here to deliver you my stuff for my benefit. I want to get to know you. I want to figure out how you're thinking, how you're wired, your schematics, where do you want to go, and then creatively collaborate with you to provide an experience for you to open up different perspectives and opportunities and in ways to be okay, or whatever your goals are. Some people's goals are to have a stronger mindset. Some people, I've got a client that just wants to be a better dad. I've got businesses that just want to develop, you know, skills and habits of high performing teams leveraged from the Marine Corps, you know, whatever. I've got a couple clients that work and under-resourced students and trying to help them. So I do a for-profit there. And then we just launched a nonprofit to support veterans that are paused on thriving, to borrow a phrase from Travis Manning Foundation, struggling with transition, struggling with depression, struggling with identity, PTS, all in the effort to prehab or prevent suicide. And so we do a veterans nonprofit. It launched at the beginning of the year, and we had a bunch of events scheduled for this spring. But obviously, with the world in facing what it's facing, it doesn't feel appropriate to tackle those things right now and put the efforts towards other things. And so, as soon as this passes, we'll pick up the speed again a little bit on that veteran nonprofit.
And what's that called?
Big Fish. Right?
That's called Big Fish Foundation.
Yeah, Big Fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
And on your for profit, is that something that you just ride solo? And what does that look like for you? And what are your ambitions with it? Or is it in a place where it's just great and you keep it specific in size to free you up with some of your time for other stuff? Or what does that look like for you?
You know, it's grown through the encouragement of others that have benefited from the efforts or my relationship with them, and they're like, "Oh, you need to do more. You should do more. Can I contract you, or can you do something for us?" And so it's largely word of mouth. And you know, I don't really advertise or promote. I don't seek clients. It's healthy. It could be huge if I wanted it to. I guess maybe you could say I'm not ambitious, but I feel like it's in a good place. Depending on the client, the size of the client, or the size of the audience that the client's bringing, sometimes I bring in people to help me that I know, because it's like, oh well, this person would be great for this client because I know that how that person thinks, and we'll tag team this event. Or you know, if they've got 30 people or they got 200 people, then I bring in people's other help to facilitate success of the events, you know, because I want it to be a certain size, certain feel. So it's not I don't know. People tell me, oh, you need to do more. You can do more. I'm like, yeah, I know I could. I'm fortunate, you know, I'm really blessed with having a means that provides with my relationship with Nicole and doing these things. And so I feel I can provide quality over quantity. I'm not trying to make a dollar. I'm trying to make a difference. And so if you're willing and you want to make a difference, and you come, and some people say, oh, well, that's awful expensive. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, if it's too expensive for your life, then find somebody else that's going to give you a coupon or a discount, because when I have to go for heart surgery, I'm not going to look for the discount doctor. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not suggesting that I'm like a heart surgeon. I'm just saying, you know, affairs of of who we are, our character, our identity, and quality of the rest of our life. Like, how do you put a figure on that? And I'm not out to get rich. I'm just out to offset my cost, time, and my intellectual property.
Well, hey, man, there's a price to pay for everything, and you've had to pay a certain price to gain the experience and the perspective that you've had. And fuck, man, if you're asking, I'm like, oh, well, you guys can pay this price
if
or
someone
pay
can't
this
afford
price.
it. If someone can't afford it, that's one thing. But to say it's overpriced, to say it's expensive, that's just a hard one. And
I always work with whoever, we design the events to fit within budgets, whatever. But I do believe, here's me going on a limb, because I'm not a self-promoter or anything. Like, I have a unique set of, it's not unique. I got a lot of experience. I've got a story. I've got sets of experience that are combined together through my military and the endeavors there, and how I'm thinking and how I think and believe with my ultra endurance events and things like that. That I have a little collection.
You have a
special.
You have a
People can
lens.
leverage,
You have a lens that's
if they
not
want.
common.
I think, and I'm just going to speak
that's a great
from
way to put it. Yeah,
you do, and I think just from first person, Tosh, just from my experience with you, not only in the Marine Corps, from division schools, and then just now, if we were to look at like experiences like paint buckets, a lot of people have a lot of experiences, and some people have some unique experiences. I think it's your ability to articulate or to pick the right tool. For, you know what I mean? Like, whatever you're like, it's almost, it is kind of like art to be able to just deal with people in a certain way and be captivating, but just be able to translate your experiences into a lesson for people to take away. And I think inadvertently, some people probably want you to grow because, one, they don't necessarily understand the time and care that it goes into. And if you grow too big, maybe it's watered down, or maybe you are scaling too far to where the message gets diluted. But at the same time, just speaking from first person, like, hence why I wanted you on the podcast. I mean, I want everybody to just hear what you have to say and hear how you articulate. And be respectful if someone isn't, if that's just not their business model, more than okay. But I think it goes beyond, just your experiences, Tosh. I think it goes into your self-awareness. It goes into how you're still growing that allows you this ability to use those paint buckets and paint this picture for people to see, right? Because if we're looking at a bunch of cans of paint, what does that look like? We don't know, but when you get up there and then you paint and we can see this picture you're talking about, it's like, oh, man, that makes sense. So, because Tosh, you and I know, man, there's some people from the military world that do have some unique experiences or been through a lot. They're not going to articulate a thing to you, nor are they necessarily the right person to do it. So I do think there's just some validity to where you've grown and how you can express it. That means most.
Tosh,
I appreciate it.
What are some books you recommend, man? If there's some young men out there that want to expand their thinking, want to gain a little more self-awareness, what were some kind of impactful books on your personal life, man, that you experienced?
Yeah, man. It's funny, I get that out a lot, and it's something that I just started doing again, is picking up more books and reading again a little bit more frequently. Oh man, there's so many. My mind's trying to blank. Like, Infinite Lightness of Being was one that really moved me. The Atheist Book to Spirituality, a little pocket book, was one that moved me.
Yeah. What was that first one you mentioned?
The Infinite Lightness of Being, Kundera.
Okay.
Let's see. 4 Agreements I just finished digging back into. I'm getting ready to do a book reread for the 3rd time, Wild at Heart, and do like a little book study with a couple Marines again. The Alchemist was a great one. Obviously, people probably read that one. I've been trying to read a little bit on emotional intelligence. There's a handful of books on emotional intelligence out there. The Book of Virtues, The Moral Compass. Those 2 books are big volumes, but you just pick a chapter and you read. They're all little short stories and whatnot. Those are great. Aesop's Fables. There's another great one. I'm trying to think of the name of the book. I'll have to get back to you. I put it down, and then I got to pick it back up again. But I'll remember that one. I know that I want to dig back into that one again. So
I got a handful of these written down.
Those were some of the ones that were kind of big and getting me to think a little differently and open up my mind a little bit. I think whatever you're reading, don't read for the sake of having to read something. Read because you enjoy it, but look for things that you enjoy that are outside of your own echo chamber. If we constantly surround ourselves with people that reinforce what we want to hear.
Yep.
who reinforce who we are or who we think we are. And it's really cool to go outside of that. You know, that's one of my biggest things with helping veterans that are struggling when we do these events with the veterans. It's like, yeah, your narrative, you know, be careful of the people that are always giving you sympathy and telling you this and that and echoing back. You're in this echo chamber of bullshit, and it constantly reinforces the narrative that you have, and your narrative sucks. And you know what? Come hang out with me for a couple of days, because I'm going to tell you that your narrative sucks.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You're going to make me, you know, cut myself. Yeah, well, you know what? That's the first thing you need to hear, that your narrative sucks. And I'm not saying that because I'm a dick or an asshole. I mean, I am, but I'm not saying that because of that. I'm saying it because it's what you need to hear, because I care about you, man, and I love you.
And it's also okay.
Yeah,
right? Like when you say you care,
okay.
It's like, hey, your narrative sucks, but hey, hold on a minute. It's okay. It's okay that you're there. Let's just get better, though, right?
Let's just work on figuring out why you want to continue to tell yourself that, and why you keep picking the friends that keep telling you the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. You're never going to be better. You're never going to be bigger than that. You're never going to be bigger than who you are. You're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck being that high school, you know, starting quarterback. You're 55, I say this all the time, right? You're 55-year-old dude sitting at the end of the bar and telling bullshit story how you were the high school star quarterback and homecoming king. Number one, no, you weren't. But that's okay, cool. Like, you can live that dream. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, you're 50 pounds overweight, you're an alcoholic, and you're living there, and you're late on your bills, and you're doing shit, because that's the narrative you want to keep. You'll always be that 17-year-old kid back in high school because you refuse to grow.
It's Uncle Rico, man.
It is.
Don't be Uncle Rico.
Tosh, I got one last question for you, man. Something, and it might be a little, you know, a dynamic question here, but something I want to leave the audience with, and something that I'm curious about. And first part of the question is, you know, obviously you were a leader in the Marine Corps. You've been a leader in a lot of things that you've done. First part of the question is, do you still consider yourself a leader? Do you still see yourself as such? And then, obviously, second part to that question is, with the amount of impact that you have, right? Like guys like me that are out there that literally listen to your podcast every week. I've seen stories you've shared on your Instagram. People are listening. You have the ability to have reach, right? Like people will listen to your words for forever. You don't have to get out there to the masses. There's just so much impact to even just one podcast or something that you write on Instagram. It's got so much reach now. But first part, do you still, you know, see yourself, envision yourself as a leader? And then secondly, you know, if you could dial in what that drive and what that motivation to continue to be that leader that you see, you know, yourself as, where does that come from? What is that?
Yeah, I'm absolutely still a leader. Absolutely. I'm leading myself, number one. If you can't lead yourself, then you have no business leading others. And I'm a leader knowing that leadership doesn't mean that you always have to be in charge. They're two separate conversations, you know. Leading by example, of passive leadership, you know. I don't believe in followership. I believe leaders and supporters. Following has a negative connotation to me. It's weak. I lead by supporting other people and their dreams and desires. So yeah, I'm still a leader, and I'm still learning, and I don't have all the answers. You know what I mean? I've got a good start at figuring things out. I've got the answers that help me ask more questions. And then my reach, my words, I don't know. I'm not looking for numbers. I'm not looking for a fan base. I'm not looking for my face on a t-shirt. I'm not looking for anything. I'm looking to make a difference. I'm looking, and if it's 10, you know, how many people really believe that? How many times have you heard, I don't care if I change one life, you know, that's all that matters to me. And I'm like, yeah, bullshit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's not who you are. I don't believe it for a minute. Like, you can say it all you want, you know what I mean? Fake it until you make it, but you're full of shit. I'm not out there trying to have millions of followers. I'm not looking to be a huge mega influencer. I'm looking to make a difference for the people who, hey, I'm selling a magazine, and you can read an article, you can buy the subscription, you can buy one magazine, you can buy two of them and share it with a friend. I don't care what you do. I'm just putting myself out there. And if you're interested in it and you're attracted to it, then it adds value for you, then good. And if it creates dialogue with people that disagree, I like that. You know, like on my Instagram today and and you know, I reposted to my Facebook, and some people that disagree, and I love it, because I don't, you know, I present certain things and I don't fully articulate. I don't write a whole, like, that's why my podcasts are short. I don't fully develop all of my thoughts all the time and run them through every little thing, and they're not airtight, watertight, because it's not what I want. I want to help people think for themselves. I want my kids to be able to think for themselves. I don't want them to think like dad. I don't want them to be dad. I want my son Colby to be Colby, and my daughter Sarah to be Sarah, and my daughter Chloe to be Chloe. And so that's all I want to do, is put things out there that get people thinking, and then they can put it together and believe what they want to believe. And ideally, they're engaging other people with their thoughts in the same manner. I'm setting the example for dialogue and discussion, so that they can resource their audiences in a quest that we all just learn a little bit more tolerance, a little bit more common courtesy, decency, respect, growth,
Is there any place that derives from? Like just waking up every day and just doing that and approaching and being so consistent with, and obviously that's your approach, and that's your, hey, this is how, I want to be a leader, and I don't want to be huge, but here's what I want to accomplish with it. In being so consistent with it, where does your drive come from to go out and be the leader you are every day? Where does that come from?
Insecurity, probably. Knowing that I just don't have the answers, that I'm not perfect, that I've got all these flaws, and I'm still looking for forgiveness for myself, to forgive myself, and just trying to make amends where I can. And that's it, really, and just, hey, I think if I set the example for a long time, people looked at me, right? Like, Will, you've looked at me because of my career. Yeah. If you were in the Marine Corps, when I was in the Marine Corps, and my story and who my persona was, and I put up this certain image, and it was appropriate. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe 90%. I don't know, but it is what it is, and for why it was. And I know that I held on to that for a long time, even after the Marine Corps, and I was struggling with some stuff deep inside, and I, unintended consequences of that persona held on for so long, makes people question themselves, doubt themselves, broke because Tosh did this, and it's like, man, like I'm doing damage to people. So I want to offer that transparency and let others know that I'm struggling, that I have these doubts, that I wrestle with bad days and dark days and guilt and conscience, and it's okay. You're supposed to. If you weren't questioning that would be what would be not okay. The fact that you're having these conversations with yourself and you're having these doubts means you're a good person, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And it's how you go forward and process those things that's most important. And so when I started opening up about all this stuff that you keep inside, because, you don't show that for the men in certain circumstances, because that's not what they need, because that has a bunch of different problems, in that military construct. But I started getting some help and showing that it was okay to not be 100% perfect. And I've actually gotten stronger. I've gotten stronger than I ever was. I'm stronger today than I've ever been by allowing people to see that I'm not perfect, and I have these struggles and these weaknesses and all that stuff I talk about, and it's helping other people accept theirs as well, and not use me to contrast themselves, but to use me to see like, oh, I'm just like that guy. Like I can do it too. And it's okay for me to have these things.
It's so true. And I bet that's not the answer people were expecting, when you said insecure, and I just, before we end this podcast, man, I really appreciate you saying that. I appreciate what you're doing. And, like when I first contacted you again after so many years, when I was doing the fitness company thing and being number 2, the fact of the matter is, man, I was super scared. Like I was leaving, law enforcement and shedding some skin, and I was excited. I knew enough about myself to know that I was excited, and I knew there was going to be some good things about it. But then once you actually take that leap, right, and you transition over and you're doing it, some of that fear starts to settle in, and you question yourself, and you're not sure. And just the relationship I was able to rekindle, with you from time to time, and just being in your audience and just watching, someone from a person like you said, I know your story, I know how you lead, and I remember you from different division schools, but to watch you grow as a person and how you consistently adapted to your transition just kind of showed me through action that, one, it's okay that I'm scared. 2, that I've just got to consistently take the tools that I've learned, but then I've got to learn how to take these tools and adapt to whatever environment I'm doing. And that's something that I strive for, because you never said that to me. I never told you I was scared. You never said that directly to me. It was just me paying attention to your actions and consistency and vulnerabilities to be insecure and talk about it, and then watching the benefit that you had with it, and just letting that be okay with myself, and it's not that I was like hiding it or not wanting to be vulnerable. I didn't even know that was the answer, But then seeing that exposed to me, showing that there's some truth and there's some answer to that, it's made me a better father. It's made me way more self-aware. It's made me transition to be able to lead civilians, because you and I both know leadership here and leadership within the military can be a little different. And not only, civilians, but we've got a team full of women, and it's just how you've led by example that just showed how much okay it was for me to do. And just, I know I call you all the time and I try to talk to you, and I'm forever grateful for the example that you set for all of us, and was just always so curious as into where it came from, where the drive came from.
Yeah, man.
Right on.
Time's much appreciated, man. It's been a great episode. Thank you so much.
Happy Monday, guys. We're going
to get yourself some hand sanitizer, then come up and visit, man.
Hell yeah, bro.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, that's my way to like get you to say okay for me to come up. Is I was like, hey, I got Eli with me. I know he's gonna move you. Can I bring him? You're like, yeah, bring that fucking guy. But hey, I'll be honest.
You can drop Eli off anytime.
He's gonna rub that in, bro.
Oh shit!
I got to deal with these repercussions now, man.
I'm gonna beat him for that.
He is, dude.
No, Tosh, something that I love when you and truth be told, man, I love when you say that, because I actually say the same thing to Eli, man. Like the way I'm complimentary to him and the way I hold him in my life and how well respected it is. Sometimes he's had a hard time thinking that. And he's like, oh man, you've done so much. I'm like, no, dude, fuck that. Like there's so much value behind who you are as a person, and just where has some of his questions come from or some of his thought process come from. It's opened me up. So, it doesn't surprise me at all on how you perceive him, because I think you and I, we see things somewhat similar. So I think when I ask questions, again, I think I'm trying to pull some things out for the audience versus his lens. It's just so organic, and you guys are still getting to know each other, and it's awesome. And it's the same way that I see him, and I'm super glad he gets a compliment, because I know how he speaks about you. So I love when he gets to have a compliment from you. As jealous as I am. If I move Tosh, it's because I like fucking push him or something, right? Like Eli does it spiritually.
Ton of respect for both you. Both you guys, and
surround yourself, man. Surround yourself with people that make you better, not 100%. People that keep you being the same person you are. Surround yourself with people that make you better, and I believe the two of you guys have found that for each other, and I'm glad to be part of. Maybe I can be the third musketeer,
right on,
and because you guys do that for me, So I appreciate you asking me to be on.
Of course, man.
100%. Well, hey, Tosh, stay on the hook for a quick second, man. We're going to end this out, then we'll let you go right after that. But to all the listeners, happy Monday. Keep grinding. If you guys have questions for Tosh, we'll put some links up in some places where you guys can find him, and anything else, especially, the veteran community. If you got questions on the Big Fish Foundation, please reach out. But happy Monday. We will see you guys come Friday.
All right. See you next time, guys. Peace.
Out.